ally. By some calculations, maybe its only real ally, and that's the state of Israel. And that has been the case for a long time. In fact, so long that few people question whether that's a good idea or why exactly that is. Everyone knows our closest ally is Israel, and we have all kinds of military and economic ties to Israel. But the main way you know Israel is our closest ally is that really up until just the other day, there was not a scenario you could conjure in your head in which the United States would take the side of any other country over Israel. It just couldn't happen. So Israel's our chief ally. Hasn't always been this way. Of course, Israel didn't exist until right after the Second World War. So it's all pretty new, and it's accelerated with every decade. We've become closer and closer to Israel. Our commitment, not our legal commitment or publicly discussed commitment, but our in effect commitment, our on-the-ground commitment to Israel has become stronger every year. But there's no reason that should stay the way it is forever. What if we decided to change it up? What if we decided to get a new closest ally in the world? How about Qatar? What if Qatar was our closest ally? Float that one at the next dinner party you go to. People will respond strongly, especially if they're Fox News viewers. What? Are you an Islamist? Qatar? The bloodthirsty Islamo-fascist state? What, are you getting paid by the Qatar lobby? AQUAC? Of course, there is no actual AQUAC, but if there was a Qatar lobby, it should be called AQUAC. And then you would be forced to explain why Qatar should be our closest ally. And of course, people would look at you like you were insane, in fact, dangerous and probably anti-American. But let's just take Qatar out of it for a second. How do you think about, if you're the United States, who ought to be your closest ally? Who gets that job? Who do you take to the prom? And it depends on how you think about it. If you think about it through the lens of American interest, which is to say what's good for us, then it's a very different picture. What's good for us? Well, you would want a country that had, I don't know, natural resources that you might want to have access to. Energy, probably first and foremost, but maybe not. Minerals too. But certainly energy, oil and gas, because we need them, despite what they may tell you, to continue our civilization and to be strong and prosperous. So a big energy supply would be important. A powerful military might also help. And to have a powerful military, of course, you need a big population to man the military, as Ukraine, unfortunately, is finding out now. It helps to have a lot of people. So there are a couple of different countries you might throw out there if you were looking purely through the lens of what's good for the United States, an America first perspective. The most obvious, of course, would be Russia. Russia! Why? Because it's the biggest country in the world. It's the biggest landmass in the world, and it has enormous mineral deposits, energy deposits. It's got a lot of oil and gas and gold and everything else you need to run a society. And it also has a formidable military, by far the biggest on that continent, on the European continent, and huge manufacturing capacity. So, like, if you needed an ally to help you in a conflict, or if you needed a country in which to stage a fight with some other country, a place to put air bases, for example, Russia would be like the best, of course. But we can't be allied with Russia because Russia's bad. They're immoral. They're bad. You might also say, well, Venezuela. Why Venezuela? Well, because they have the largest proven oil reserves in the world. They're in our hemisphere. I don't know. Lots of natural resources. It's right there. Why not make them a big ally? Talk about a place for military bases and trade, and that might help us. They've got a lot that we might benefit from if we wanted to help our country. You can't. They're bad. They're so bad we're going to invade them. They're so immoral we have to go to war with them. We cannot be allies with them. We have to fight them. That's how immoral they are. Okay. Well, at a certain point, you get to places like, I don't know, Equatorial Guinea. You know, probably not a beacon of democracy. Small country, tons of energy, though. And then the more obvious ones like Saudi Arabia or UAE or Bahrain, Oman, Kuwait, the rest of the Gulf states. Like, those might all be good. We don't have their same form of government. Those are all monarchies, 6 monarchies clustered next to each other, but all of them have a ton of energy. And they're all pretty pro-American, and they're in an important part of the world. So it's not a matter of being a Qatari nationalist or trying to promote Qatar. As you think about who should be an ally of your nation, you think about your nation. What's good for us? How do we serve our people, our citizens, the people who voted for us, who pay for all of this? Like, what's in their interest? And Qatar just seems like an obvious one, but it doesn't have to be the only one. And the only reason we're choosing it tonight is because there's so much falseness about Qatar. if you watch Fox News, you know Qatar is evil and they're secretly running the United States. They probably don't tell you that their owner was just in Qatar trying to raise money, which is not an attack on their owner. It's merely an acknowledgement of what everyone who doesn't watch Fox News all day knows, which is Qatar is part of the world. And lots of people go there. We were there 2 days ago. So was Hillary Clinton. So was Bill Gates, looking kind of cadaverous. And it's not because we love Hillary Clinton or Bill Gates we're there. It's because, like, everyone's there. And if you want to interview people, you should probably go to Qatar because everyone's there. And why is everyone there? Because it's a pretty open society, because they have a lot of stuff going on and they've got a lot of resources and they welcome people to talk about things in their country. That's not bad. Those are not bad things. Why are we being told Qatar is so bad? Well, of course, for the same reason we hear a lot of countries are bad, because if we have other strong allies, that might affect the interest of our only ally, which would be Israel. Because neocons are never going to win if those are the terms of the debate. What's best for our country? They're not even contestants in that. They have no interest in what's best for our country, of course. But you can change the conversation to theology. And you can just say it point blank. God demands that you support the government of Benjamin Netanyahu. Now, who would be vulgar and dumb and reckless enough to say something like that? Who would actually invoke God himself to justify a political alliance with a foreign country? Man, you'd have to be someone who's not worried at all about the afterlife to say something like that, because that is a reckless thing to say. And if you've already guessed Ted Cruz, you're absolutely right. Watch.
I will tell you, there is a movement among Christians, particularly young Christians. The public polling numbers of support for Israel among young Christians is plummeting. And they're being spread lies. They're being spread lies, isolationist lies, that we should withdraw from the world because nobody wants to hurt us. But they're also being spread theological lies. They are being taught replacement theology, which is a lie that the promises God made to Israel and the people of Israel are somehow no longer good. They are no longer valid, that when God made a promise, he didn't mean the promise he made. And instead, it is an argument that the Christian church has replaced Israel and the Jews are no longer God's chosen people, and all of the promises throughout the Bible are now a dead letter. The church needs to engage and say the Bible is not silent on Israel. The Bible is crystal clear on Israel. And in the church, we will stand and fight.
Man. You know, it's one thing to get all worked up at the Waco Rotary Club about issues related to Texas. But, here you have a guy who's deep into the things that actually matter, the questions of what happens after we die and what's true. And he has no idea what he's talking about.